Hello, this is Haiku here for some more historic Pauper deck techs for you to take out this midweek magic. So this time I'm going to go through a unique deck that doesn't exist in Paper Pauper, so it's very fun and kind of interesting to play. So it's based around Gouged Zealot. So there's three variants. I'm just going to go through them all in one video. Just to kind of go over because they're base black and red, and then the third color is just flavoring on top. So the reason why you play three colors is so you can play more bridges, because Cleansing Wildfire is actually pretty key to the plan. So I think the strongest one is the Jund formulation, because you get access to the green ramp cards. So the base of the combo, for those who are unaware, is you play Plaguecrafter's Familiar and perpetually give Gouged Zealot Death Touch, and then you play Zealot and you crack your Bitter Reunion. So generally it's going to be a turn 5 play and attack in. Bitter Reunion is down the graveyard, so you have an enchantment, and generally when you discarded to Bitter Reunion, you discarded the card that you needed, so generally you'll have Delirium on the attack, and basically you Plague Wind your opponent every single turn that Zealot attacks. So you can play this more as like a control deck, a slower deck. I like just going all in. It's not a very good control deck because the finisher isn't very reliable. It's a 3 toughness creature that has to attack to deal its trigger. So you have to resolve it and you have to be able to attack with it. So it's pretty difficult to set up. So I like to try to just go fast and clean the opponent up and then try to put enough pressure to finish the game before they deal with the Zealot and then rebuild their board. That's why, in my mind, Cleansing Wildfire is the best plan, is because this at least takes 5 mana, because generally you don't want to leave it dead to sorcery speed removal, so you're trying to do this at instant speed, or not instant speed, on the same turn, so you generally want at least 5 mana, so this helps. Sometimes you want 6 mana, so you can hold up Veil and do that. It's difficult to cast Wildfire and then cast Bitter Reunion and then be able to do the business on turn 4 with 5 mana in play. But it's possible with this deck, and that would be the nut draw. Well, actually, so I've made the deck even more of a nut draw based deck where you Faithless Looting, you discard your Familiar or your Agent or your Ringleader, and then unearth it to bring it back once you have the Zealot in hand. So you cannot discard the Zealot. Obviously, it doesn't come back with unearth, and then also you need it in hand to give it the Death Touch. Ringleader is another way to give haste to your Zealot, so you don't have to have 5 mana on the turn you go. This allows you, if you don't have the Death Touch on the Zealot, it allows you to swing in and at least wrath your opponent 1 time, and generally that's good enough. And it's a nice flexible card because it gives lifelink and allows you to get back in the game. One nice thing is all of the little 1 damage you do to all the opponent's creatures does gain you life, so it can be a pretty big life swing to help you stabilize the board. Other than that, Tithing Blade, just kind of, even though this deck deals with the hexproof decks fairly well, it's nice to stay up with it, and also it's another artifact in addition to your bridge lands to get your Delirium turned on. Deadly Dispute is also an excellent way to turn on Delirium because it itself is an instant, which goes into the graveyard, but then generally you're sacking either a creature or a land artifact, and so that generally by itself will get you Delirium. You'd be 1 short if you had no other play with this and this, and then with the creature you'd be 2 short. But generally you're able to get Delirium, like I said, with casting Bitter Reunion. One nice thing about this plan is Faithless Looting makes it much more likely to get Wildfire on turn 2, or at least one of these other ones that aren't as good as Wildfire, but they do a okay impression. And so, again, it just emphasizes that plan of trying to assemble the combo as fast as possible. So it's a fun deck. It's very punishing to the hexproof based decks, which are always annoying to play against, and so if you just want to just stomp on those all day, this is fine. Like I said, though, it is a little bit weak because you have to attack with a 4/3, so that's not always easy, especially against some red decks that at least some decks know they're coming. If you have an opponent who's actually played Zealot before, this is a little bit of a unknown deck to the wider community at large, but it's very well known in our Discord. They'll keep 1 mana up to be able to deal 3 to the Zealot, and then you're kind of screwed as they beat down on you. And you have to kind of find your Snakeskin Veil, which again, the one-ofs in this deck actually you can find fairly frequently because of Faithless Looting, so it's not too rare. The sideboard, I'm just going to put some cards just to consider. So one thing to consider is this deck does play okay to play with the lesson plan in the sideboard. And so the best card that learns is Cram Session, I think, for this deck, because you just want to stall and gain life. And then Learn also plays pretty well with Madness cards, as well as Bitter Reunion plays with Madness cards. So there's Fiery Temper, and then there's Alms of the Vein, which can help keep you alive. And then there's also the Kitchen Imp that also can beat down if you'd like that. Green offers some cool sideboard cards that you can play main deck, like Unite a Bit of Shot is very excellent. But this deck doesn't really care about artifacts and enchantments or flyers. It just wants to get the combo and attack in, because when it attacks in, it deals with the whole board. And so I elected to not play those. Echoing Decay, always a solid sideboard option to deal with the Storm deck, which I'll be going through soon. And so, but I think, again, this deck it wants to go faster than the Storm deck, and if it can attack with the Zealot, it can clean up all the Storm copies as long as you didn't die on that turn. Trespasser's Curse is another way to deal with Storm, and also deals with like weenie decks that are trying to overwhelm you, because it gives you a little bit of a life buffer. So those are considerations for main deck cards. Atraxa's Fall, also another very flexible green card. So that's the Jund version. Then Grixis Zealot is probably the weakest. Well, not weakest, but it's just the blue doesn't really offer anything except for Dispel. So basically this version is just solely focused on assembling the combo. So unfortunately, since you don't have the two mana green ramp, you have to go to 3 mana, which is definitely a huge downside in Geomancer's Gambit. And then I'm playing more Faceless Agents. Now, one issue is if you play a lot of Faceless Agents, you can Faceless Agent, and instead of hitting the combo piece that you're missing, you can hit another Faceless Agent. So that's not bad, because then you can cast the Faceless Agent the next turn and then eventually find your combo piece. The issue is that most of the time you're really, really trying to find your combo piece and assemble it as fast as humanly possible, and you can't spend like 3 or 4 turns chaining Faceless Agent to Faceless Agent into Faceless Agent, because you'll be dead by the time that you get the combos assembled. So that's one downside. You might want to consider playing, like in the green version, only 2 Faceless Agents to be more consistent. One nice part, though, is it makes it more likely to hit a Faceless Agent and then unearth it to be able to find the combo. So there's a tension there that you have to decide how you want to play it. Given that there's not really that many other blue cards that I'd be interested in, I just elected to play the full 4 in this deck. And here's some blue sideboard cards to consider. Spell Pierce, Annul, Shore Up are all pretty excellent. And then some other cards that I didn't have space to include as consideration in those other in the Jund version. Just cards to think about. The core of the deck generally has to remain the same, but then there's a lot of flexibility elsewhere. All right, and here's the white deck. The white deck, it gets you a Lauren's Escape and Lenin's Sanctifier. Obviously, this is a nice life gain card. This is a nice protection spell, just like Snakeskin Veil or Dispel is. And then the rest of the deck is the same. Some interesting white cards to consider. Dawnbringer Cleric is also pretty good. Spirited Companion, it's nice because it's a dual type thing, so you can... in the yard, it counts double for your Delirium count. And then here are some just other cards. Inspiring Overseer is also a great white card. I don't really think it fits in this deck, but if you want to go more of the value train, you can play those and grind out the opponent. So that's the various varieties of Gouged Zealot decks. Hopefully you enjoy playing them and stomp some creature decks. Enjoy this kind of combo-y, but it's more just, I guess, a mid-range kind of deck. See ya.